welcome to In Chrysalis. I am Becky, and on this channel we talk about transformations that we go through when we are on our different health journeys. And so today I want to share with you the most transformative experience of my life, and that happened earlier this summer. I had noticed a small rash on my lower left abdomen, and this would have been on a Wednesday, right at the end of June. And I remember thinking, oh, okay, that's unusual, but I just treated it like a rash. And the next couple of days I didn't feel great, but I didn't feel terrible. But then Saturday I did not feel good at all. And now I am not a napper, but about 3 o'clock in the afternoon I'm like, I have got to lay down and take a nap. And so I laid down. I slept for about 2 hours, and then when I woke up from that nap, I was drenched in sweat. I was shaking, and I reached down and touched that rash. It was red hot and it had spread. And I said to my husband, something's wrong with me. I don't know what's wrong, but I got to get to the emergency room. And so he got the shoes on, grabbed the phone and the wallet, and we were in the truck headed to the hospital. So fortunately, when we got to the emergency room, we only had to wait about 5 minutes to get back in to see the nurse. And my BP was 90 over 50. My heart rate was like 115, 117, something like that, just crazy high. And she said, okay, we are going to get you to a room right away. And so, okay, so got back to the room. The ER physician was waiting in the room for me. When I got back there, I'm like, ooh, all right. But anyway, he said, let me take a look at that rash. And so he looked at it and he's like, yeah, you've got a significant infection going on here. So, okay, so within a matter of minutes, I had IVs going in both arms, one with antibiotics, one with fluids. I got monitors on me everywhere. And, they kind of told my husband, she's going to be here for a while. If you want to go home, you can go home. So anyway, he went home. And so over the course of the evening, I did x-ray. They took me down for a CT. And so my first visitor from upstairs was the PA from the ICU. Yeah, so I'm like, ooh, all right, that's not good. But yeah, he was very professional and asked me a series of questions, and then he was the one who brought up the advance directive. Now, I've been involved with advance directives before for other people, for other family members. This was the first time I'd been asked about one for myself. And I just remember just feeling this resolve come over me. And I said to him, I am 52 years old. I'm not checking out yet. And he smiled, and we concluded our conversation. And after he left, that was the first moment where I'm like, okay, I'm in a really serious situation here. And I hadn't put everything together in my head yet. But I remember thinking, okay, and now I am incredibly iatrogenic, and I have been my entire life. So fear of doctors, fear of hospitals, it's been a thing for me my entire adult life. But I remember thinking, okay, I've got to let the medical professionals just do what they do. I've got to let these chemicals that they are pumping into me do what they do. I have one job, and that job is to keep my mind clear and to breathe. That's it. And so that's what I focused on, being able to think clearly and to breathe. So over the course of the overnight, different people coming in, and about 3 a.m. the PA from surgery came in, and she was kind of looking at it, poking around a little bit. And anyway, she said, okay, we're going to be in touch. I'm like, okay, that's fine. And then next thing I remember is about 5 a.m., my nurse came in, and she had been with me all night. And she said, okay, we're going to start prepping you for surgery. Surgery? Really? She's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. And right behind her was the anesthesiologist. And so he's asked me the normal questions. And he said, so we're going to be putting you under general this morning. General? Really? Yeah. And he's like, yep. You've been under general before? I'm like, well, yeah, twice, and no problems. And okay, so concluded that conversation. He went on his way, and then a couple minutes later, they started, getting me ready to go down to the OR. And as they were wheeling me out of my room, Dr. O'Neill, my surgeon, arrived, And so he walked with me from the ER back to the OR, and he said, "You've got a really aggressive bacterial infection going on there. It's incredibly rare, and this is the kind that once it gets exposed to air, it's just going to go crazy. So the only way to deal with this is for me to surgically remove it." And so anyway, I remember just saying to him at that point, you do whatever you need to do, and I'll deal with it on the other side. And he just patted me on the shoulder and said, "I'm going to take really good care of you." And I'm like, "Okay, great, thank you." And believe me, that is exactly what you want to hear your surgeon say when you are headed into the OR. So anyway, we did prep. My husband was able to get there in time, so I was able to see him before I went in, and then they brought me back to the OR, and they got me on the table and said, "Okay, take a couple of deep breaths," and I did, and I was out. When I woke up, I was in recovery, and the nurse said, "Everything is done. You did a great job. Everything's fine. You're looking good." And this is just one of the weird things that I remember, but I do not get restless leg syndrome, but yet all 3 times coming out of general anesthesia, I get this crazy restless leg in both of my legs. So it was just one of the weird things that I remember, but I do remember that. I remember my legs were just shaking all over the place. But yeah, Dr. O'Neill came over and he said, we were able to get everything, and he was very optimistic, and he said, you're going to have a significant recovery, but you're strong, and everything went really well. So I'm like, okay, great. So over the next hour or so, they got me moved up to my room in the ICU, where I had my IV antibiotics and my fluids, and it was after they got me settled upstairs, I got curious, and so I'm like, I wanna take a look at my report from the ER. So I logged into my MyChart, and as I was looking at my ER report, that was the first time I saw the word sepsis. And I remember just letting out this huge exhale when I saw that, and my eyes just locked onto that word. And I remember just thinking, oh my God, I was septic. And so intellectually, I know that if you have the sweats, if you have the shakes, if your BP is really, really low and your heart rate is really, really high, yeah, sepsis. But I think my mind was protecting me. It didn't let me put those things together when I was in the ER. And I'm glad it didn't, because I think it would have been a lot harder for me if I would have actually heard the word sepsis. So anyway, that was a moment. So the other thing that happened, okay, so my surgical wound was roughly the surface area of a football. So everything was contained. It unfortunately did not go into any muscle, any organs, any bone. It was all contained in soft tissue, so that was great. But it was substantial. So I had to have dressing changes multiple times a day. And those dressing changes were painful. Those were really, really difficult. I'm a tough girl. I got grit. But it took a lot of grit to get through those. And I remember just when I would have to have them, I would just kind of go into this deep breathing pattern, just real deep inhale and real deep exhale. And it was, it was calming to me. I don't know if it was calming to the medical professionals in the room who were actually doing the dressing changes, but it definitely helped. And then I had a Dilaudid drip, so I was able to take a couple hits off of that when I needed to. And then also they were able to use lidocaine as well, and the lidocaine really did help. So but the other thing that first dressing change, because I am a type 2, Dr. O'Neill and I believe it was Dr. Skiba, who was the chief of ICU, they were both in the room along with the nurses who were doing the dressing changes. And they asked, "What's her A1C?" And the nurse said 5.7. And now I was still really focused on my breathing at that point, so I wasn't quite sure I'd heard that correctly. Now, in April, my A1C was 8.0. So I asked the nurse, I'm like, can you say again what my A1C was? And she said, yeah, it's 5.7. And I remember my hand just coming up to my face, like, oh my gosh. And Dr. O'Neilly's standing right here, and he's looking down at me, and he's like, is that good? I'm like, yeah, that's really good. And I said it was 8.0 in April. And, everyone in the room, they're like, oh, fantastic, good for you, that's wonderful. So, yeah, in April, my A1C was 8.0. That's when I got on new medication, completely changed my nutrition. I mean, I went very much with a keto diet and all of that. So anyway, that was a dramatic drop from April until the end of June. To go from 8.0 to 5.7. So that was a really big deal. That was my proud girl moment when I was in the hospital. But anyway, then so I was in there for 6 days, and just those hospital days get really long. But I was determined to keep my mind active, and I I would ask the nurses, can I get up and walk? And they're like, yeah, you can get up and walk. So, I always had to have somebody with me because I've got like all these wires coming off of me. So got up and did my walks and everything. And then, I would just go to my chair and I would just log into my work, use Canvas at the college where I teach at, and logged into my online classes because I was teaching 3 online classes last summer. And I had great quizzes and hold office hours, and I'm like, what else am I gonna do? I may as well, And my students were wonderful. Love my students. They're like, oh my goodness, yeah, it's okay, because I told them it might take me a little bit longer than usual to respond to your messages, but this is what's going on. And they were all just fantastic. But anyway, it was day 5 when I was in the hospital that I got my wound vac. Now, if you've ever had a wound vac or know someone who has, they are amazing devices. They are these little machines that heal the wound in just ways that if you had to do consistent dressing changes, it would take forever. With my wound vac, I had my wound vac for 3 months. But it would have been probably triple that amount of time if I wouldn't have had the wound vac. So anyway, I got my wound vac, and that guy was with me 24/7. Like, the only place I didn't take the wound vac was in the shower. Like, if I wasn't in the shower, the wound vac was hooked up. And so it was amazing how much that helped me heal. I also spent the next 3 months going to the wound care clinic at the University of Michigan, and they were amazing. I loved my physical therapist there. The nurses, everybody was so good. I have only positive things to say about them. And but I gotta tell you, those dressing changes were painful. Those were really, really hard. That was the hardest part of this whole experience, for the dressing changes. I had that experience, and then this is another big thing for me. The day I got home from the hospital, my husband had gotten my bedroom, it was all cozied up for me, clean bedding, fluffed up pillows. I mean, he really made it cozy for me. And so when I got in bed, my mind went back to, okay, this is where I was a week ago when I woke up from that nap and I was drenched in sweat, and I knew something was really, really wrong with me. And now here I am, a week later. That was a moment. That was a real moment. That was the first time that week I shed a tear. I lost it for about 15 minutes because the whole reality of the situation and how close I came to dying. If I would have waited much longer, I could have either died, or my surgical outcome would have been far more serious than it was. I mean, it was extensive enough, given the circumstances. It could have been so much worse. So I had about 15-minute meltdown on that one, but I needed to have it. But once I got that out of me, whatever it was I needed to, get out of me. Once I got that out of me, I was like, okay, now I got to focus on healing. That's what this is all about now. So over those next 3 months, protein, hydration, rest, movement. That was my formula. And let this be a word of inspiration as well as encouragement to my fellow type 2 diabetics who might be watching this. If you have to recover from a surgery, that A1C, keeping that A1C under control. Had this happened to me in April when my A1C was 8.0, as opposed to the end of June when I had gotten it down to 5.7, it would have been a very different situation. I am certain of that. Keeping that A1C in check is absolutely paramount for the healing process. And now to broaden this out to anybody and to start wrapping up here, if you are recovering from a procedure right now, or if you know you're going to have a major surgery and you know you're going to have a significant recovery on the other side, let me encourage you. Protein, hydration, rest when you need it, and make sure you are getting up to move every couple of hours. Follow the instructions that your medical team gives you. It's not easy. It's tough. You got to dig deep. There are going to be days when you're going to have to find resources that you didn't know you had in order to get through it. But you got to be able to push through it. And now looking back on it, I got a tale to tell. This has changed me. This has transformed so much of how I view the world. It's also gotten me a long, long distance with my iatrophobia. And I'll do another video on iatrophobia so that you can hear a little bit about my history with that. But anyway, to wrap it up for today, you will, promise, at some point you will find yourself in a major medical situation. You just got to dig deep. You will get through it. Just play by the rules. And you're going to come out on the other side a lot tougher than you went in. All right. So thank you so much for joining me today. And please subscribe, leave me a comment, and I will be in touch very soon. All right. Have a wonderful day.